Authors stand. Both in the East Coast and West Coast of the USA, there are groups of well-placed persons who have been carrying on a virulent hate campaign against Yogi Bhajan for one reason or another. It would not be wrong to say that more often than not, Yogi Bhajan has provoked and invited these campaigns against him by his absurd postures and curses, which no decent and civilized man can tolerate. All the groups that have entrenched themselves against him consist either of his old friends and benefactors who have suffered from his ungratefulness and taunting arrogance, or his 3HO leaders and organizations until recently, and were his immediate successors in the ecclesiastical hierarchy. He has built around him, notably Don Conroe and Philip Hoskins, Akal Singh, and his wife Colleen, and a host of others. These leaders know too much, but can say very little because they have actually participated in all his irreligious and unhealthy activities to some extent. It is something like some people in the Arabian Nights venture, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, breaking away after 5 or 6 years and accusing Ali Baba and his gang of criminal thefts. However, these old disciples are now prepared to go to any length and employ any means to demolish his system and to see him wrecked and punished, and for what they sincerely now consider dangerous activities. How they do it, I do not know, but Yogi Bhajan is pretty nervous about their moves. I have sympathy for their loss and the sympathy they have undergone, but I have made it clear to everybody that I cannot, under any circumstances, lend any support to any hate campaign conducted against Yogi Bhajan. I can be bitter, I can be angry, but I cannot hate. And when I am very bitter about a person, I do not write about him. I have therefore long ago completely disassociated myself from these hate mongers, both on the East and West Coast, whether they were his old friends or his old disciples. I strongly disapprove of some of the methods they tend to be using, which only unscrupulous politicians can employ to malign and oust their opponents. But it cannot be denied that Yogi Bhajan uses these unscrupulous methods even against his just critics. There is a group which is supported in its campaign by Sant Versa Singh, Yogi Bhajan's old teacher and the mistress of his ashram near Lipkar. They have been fighting bitter battles against Yogi Bhajan since his split with them in 1971, with poster wars and actual guns. Their ugly methods have so far rebounded on them, and they have repeatedly failed to harm him, even though a lot of money flowed from the rich of Delhi to the USA to help them. On the other hand, they have unwittingly strengthened his position. No ideological differences were ever involved in these clashes. The differences were purely personal and never ideological. In 1974, a society in the USA financed Lipkar to renew the battle with the greater intensity, and this smart and charming lady, Lipkar, did intensify the publicity campaign with the help of 2 young men, J.S. Bular, alleged to be connected with the police department, and Manjit Singh, young leader from Calcutta. As the criticism was without substance, the campaign again failed. Within Delhi, Lipkar had a limited support, and she still has, but outside Delhi, particularly in the Punjab, she and her master Sant Versa Singh were intensely disliked for having mounted an armed attack on Sisganj shrine to capture administration by force. The police saw to it that she did not succeed. Both Yogi Bhajan and Lipkar are chips off the same old block, Versa Singh, and could come to terms if they wished to. Attempts were afoot to bring about a reconciliation, but it failed, because Lipkar acquired a political position in the Akali Dal set up, and Bhajan backers were weakened and may be ousted soon. Up to 1972, Yogi Bhajan's wife, Inderjeet Kaur, was in charge of an important section of Sant Versa Singh's establishment in Delhi. For a long time, she hesitated to part with Sant Versa Singh. Very reluctantly, she had to do it like a dutiful Sikh wife. I met her almost every month during this period and was fully acquainted with Nirlip Kaur's gangster exploits, of which she was so proud, and which I condemned in the Hindustan Times, when her armed men occupied Sisganj Gurdwara and stopped the religious services for nearly 2 weeks. During the last 4 months, every friend and foe of Yogi Bhajan has come to me and discussed this controversial man with a streak of genius for extremely good actions and extremely bad deeds. Yogi Bhajan is a Sikh by birth, a Mahan Tantric by choice, but without training, and a Siri Singh Sahib and self-styled leader of the Sikhs of the Western Hemisphere by fluke and mysterious strategy. He has undoubtedly helped many people and taken them out of the hellish pit of drugs and homelessness, a great contribution by itself. To some he has given the right path, but the wrong techniques, and doctrines gleaned from his pedestrian knowledge of many Indian traditions. His disciples beautifully dressed in classical Sikh style, a thing charming and courageous by itself and not easy for those who do it in this country, are indoctrinated by utterly absurd doctrines of Tantra and heresy mantras of Sikhism. Within 6 years, he could have given them a detailed interpretation of Sikh scriptures and the best works on Sikh history, but as he himself is gravely ignorant of them all and unable to interpret even 2 pages of the Adi Granth, he has been feeding them with mumbo-jumbo sermons, which sometimes do not make any sense. I have quoted innumerable instances of his superficial knowledge of Sikhism, which would make a high school student from Punjab burst out into laughter. The sincerity of his followers is so deep and profound that even for their sake one would hesitate to criticize 3HO, but their ignorance and misguided faith may lead to a situation when they too may fall away disillusioned and disgusted with his fake doctrines and blame Sikhism and Sikh savants for not warning them and saving them.